Welcome to Money Conversations with KJ. KJ is a lifelong entrepreneur who's made a lot of money, lost a lot of money, and found his way back again. If you're looking for a sterile how-to, you're in the wrong place. KJ and his guests will walk you through real-life situations told by the people who live them, and they are as messy as they are inspiring. Each episode will offer lessons learned, advice on how to replicate successes and avoid pitfalls, and a new perspective to power your financial literacy. Far from a one-size-fits-all, this podcast can help you build a roadmap to your personal promised land. Milk and honey for some, whiskey and steak for others, and remind you that you're not alone on this journey.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show, Money Conversations with KJ. I am KJ. Today, we have a really cool guest I think you guys are going to get a lot of enjoyment out of, just because I know this guy now. I don't know, Charles, what, 3 years, 4 years?
About
three, 4 years. Not a real long time, but we see each other pretty much on a weekly basis because we're golf buddies. Anyway, I'd like to introduce you to Charles Hank. Charles, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin, good to see you, man. Thanks for having me.
Great. I think we're going to have a good story. And I'm just going to start real quick on the end of where you're at now, and then we're going to go to the beginning. So Charles is retired recently, 1 year, and we're going to talk about that retirement for 1 year and where he's at and how's he feeling about it kind of thing. But I think because you retired before the age of 60, there's a lot of great lessons here with money, because obviously you're not going to be able to retire before the age of 60 unless you do some right things with your money and your work ethic and what you do for a living kind of thing. And so that being said, Charles, why don't you go ahead and talk to the audience about where you were raised as a child, and then how you came about coming to Vegas here.
Who is Charles?
Who is Charles?
There you go. Well, originally from Chicago, Illinois. Grew up in the South Side. Pretty rough neighborhood. Been working since I was 16. Got a job right as I turned 16. My birthday was right there in January. Started working a week after my birthday. Got hired, and I'd worked ever since. So didn't really get involved in the gangs and things like that. So just had a job. Didn't have much. Growing up, but I did well. I was making good money back when I got hired that part-time job. I was making over $5 an hour back in, 78. That's not bad.
That's pretty good.
So that was good money.
That's almost twice the minimum wage back then.
Yeah, it was outstanding. So I was doing well, and decided didn't have my dad in my life, my biological father. And my mom, great lady, but just really a provider. Then we had a stepdad, a blended family, kind of like the Brady Bunch. You know, he had a few kids, and then she had me and my brother, and they came together and had my sister. And 2-bedroom house, 1 bathroom, 8 kids. It's like wow. I look back on that and say unbelievable, but. My mother sent me to stay with my grandparents like when I was 7th grade, and stayed there through high school, and sleeping on the couch, in the dining room. And so you didn't really have much growing up. And I knew I didn't want to stay there and do that. I looked around and saw that our family wasn't really doing well. And, I didn't have role models, people to tell me this is what you should do. And I was doing very well in school. I graduated like in the top 10 of my class, got scholarships, went to my mom and said, hey, Mom, I got these scholarships. She's like, who's going to pay for room and board? Who's going to pay for food and all that? And I'm like, I don't know. And next thing I know, I said, well, I got to figure something out. And back then, a lot of these kids today live with their parents. I decided to go join the military.
Oh.
And so I went in the Army, and...
How old were you when you joined?
18.
18.
Had never been more than 30 miles outside of Chicago, never been on a plane. Went to South Carolina and went in the military, and I started learning very quickly as I'm picking up cigarette butts, and I didn't smoke, and cleaning toilets that I didn't use. And I said, this is not for me, and I actually wanted to get out. And,
right.
I'm a man of faith. I feel like God had a plan for me and kept me there. And it was probably one of the best things for me in my life. I started looking at higher ranking folks in the military, and I started to emulate them. And I quickly became a supervisor and no longer had to pick up cigarette butts and clean toilets. I told someone else to do.
Right.
So I figured out very quickly to see how do you advance versus just staying in those positions where you did all of the hard work. And so I moved up in rank, in the enlisted ranks very well, spent 7 years there, and was going to classes and taking college courses in the military, and went to take a street survival seminar while I was over in Germany. And, policing wasn't something that I wanted to do. So but I was taking this class. It was a quick promotion points and quick college credits. And I was actually the only black dude in the class, and it was all these MPs, and I was a mechanic. And it was a street survival seminar, and it was a white guy out of Florida. He had retired. And he showed us videos and everything. And this is when cops and all that stuff wasn't on TV. I'm in Germany. Right. It's only one channel, no cable TV.
Right.
And I quickly learned about law enforcement. And I said, damn, I could do that. I could go and tell people what to do. I could drive fast and not get a ticket, outside doing something different. Right. I said, that's what I wanted to do. And so I spent like $500. I didn't want to go back to Chicago, too cold. And used to be this show on TV. I think you might know, Beverly Hillbillies. I was like, California's the place I want to be.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get out west, man, and get into some warm weather. And
like a lot of Chicagoans do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done shoveling. That's it. I got to get out.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to let's go back early. I want you to think, and as far back as you can remember, I like to ask a lot of the guests that come on. You obviously, we know the end story here, which came out great, and obviously, you just explained how you grew up in a rough area, and obviously not in a household with a lot of means and whatnot. So, but you at least had the wherewithal to know that you wanted something better for yourself, right? And you didn't just. You weren't a sheep. You weren't following whatever normal path was probably in your neighborhood kind of thing. So, but what I want to talk about right now is, because you had mentioned you started working at 16. I want to go before 16. I want you to take us back to as early as you can remember about money, because what we're talking about today is financial literacy and how we handle money and why we are the people we are and the people we become because of money. So, in your particular case, how far back can you remember where you understood what money was for and why we used it?
Well, to be frank with you, Kevin, I'm still affected by that. If you go back that far, we had love, but we didn't have a lot of means. I was on welfare at one point. My teeth were jacked up and messed up. I didn't really get fixed till I got in the military. Thank God they didn't pull them.
Right.
And they were able to repair them when I got in the military. But I didn't, I'll use this example to give you this picture. Back in the day, we used to get a catalog, I think service merchandise or something, and you circle all this stuff that you wanted for Christmas. And we get that catalog and we circle that stuff. And I never had anything that I circled under the tree. Mm. Never. And that's why I say I'm kind of messed up, because I'm kind of particular now. I'll wait for it. And so I bought my first car, saved. I had a drawer on the patio in my grandparents' house. I put the money in that sock drawer, put it in my sock, and saved the money. So I bought my first, a bike. I bought a boom box, and then I subsequently bought a car. And so I learned how to save. I learned that, there's ways to get it illegally. And there's ways to get it working. And so by me getting a job and was able to provide some things for myself at a young age, it helped me strive to say I could do it. There's a way I could do it. So
were you just like emulating somebody else, sibling, parent, friend, or whatever? Again, we all start our journeys with money one of a couple ways. People can sit us down and talk to us about money, or we can just kind of watch and then we just follow somebody else's lead. So when you were, maybe in that 7, 8, 10 years old age, and you wanted, hey mom, I want to go to the store and get some bubble gum or something. I mean, was that something that was possible, or you had to figure out a way to go get that dollar to go buy whatever it is you wanted to buy?
I learned from others' mistakes.
I see my
siblings get spanked. I didn't want to get spanked, so I did well in school.
Okay.
You know, if they changed an F to an E, you know, they didn't have all A's, then you used to get E for excellence, and they get their butts spanked, and you got spanked bad. You know, today it'd be considered child abuse.
Right.
And so I didn't want to do that. I'd see my stepdad, I'd see my moms, I'd see my aunts and uncles living paycheck to paycheck, and I didn't want that. And so I'm not going to sit here and say I knew what I wanted, because I didn't have the examples in front of me of this is what you could achieve, this is what out there for you. There was no one telling me that how I could go to college and loans, and I just know this was not it. What I was in the midst of was not what I wanted. And I said, there has to be something else. This stuff I'm seeing on TV there has to be some kind of hope there. So I just kept moving away from what I didn't want,
right,
and seeking things
that you did want
to be that I wanted. And then once I had a job and I started seeing that I could achieve some things and get some things, I had 2 cars before I turned 18. I sold one and bought another one. You know, so I started figuring things out rather quickly.
Well, you said something really interesting, you know, as I'm doing these interviews, I'm really listening hard because I want to hear that story. And so I understand at home, you know, type of family. And again, these are thousands of families that are paycheck to paycheck, just struggling to keep a roof over your head and food on the table kind of thing. And so no one sat you down. You didn't have good role models to emulate. Man, I need to do what they're doing because whatever is. But a minute ago you said, you know, on TV, and TV, right, whether we want to believe it or not, it definitely influences people. And it sounds like through TV, and this is you and millions of other kids, right? Like you see things on there that you want. Like, man, that because like a car commercial, brand new cars, you're like, oh, look at that Mustang. I love a new Mustang or something, right? And so it sounds like that kind of shaped you. What shaped you in your youth was, well, I can't really emulate or follow what's going on in my household. No fault of your own. You're just another kid in the house there. But you knew instinctively somehow, like, I want something better for me.
Yes. For
me. So you were worrying about you at a young age. You were worrying about you because, you know, a lot of kids don't worry or have the luxury of not having to worry for a while. Some of them, they get out of college, parents take care of every single little thing, right?
Right.
We both know that. But, you know, at the time and where you lived, that wasn't a luxury.
No. By
any means. But kudos for you for having the wherewithal, because there are a lot of people out there that go the opposite way. Right? They go in the pity pot way, right? They get depression. They feel sorry for themselves. Like, how can I get out of here? I can't get out of here. I'm stuck here. And then through your career, you've seen that, right? People that just feel like I'm stuck here.
Yes.
That's why I always believe, and your story is a great story, that, listen, if you want it bad enough, and there's plenty of success stories we could, you know, talk about people that do it, you've got to want that. Right. You really got to I got to get out of this situation.
Right.
I mean, you're 10, 12, 15, 16 years old figuring, I don't know what it is yet, but I definitely want something better than this.
Right.
And the only thing that you could do at the time was, you know, I got to go educate myself. I got to do the best I can do at my opportunities, which is school. So you accelerated in school, right? Which I'm sure looking back, you saw how that reaped good rewards for you in other areas. So interesting. Back to, again, your story's pretty typical as far as parents. Really, we would hope that we can teach our kids good lessons about life where they don't have to struggle. You know, I remember talking to my youngest, who's 21 now, about when she was 15 or so, and I said, sweetheart, I want you never to experience what it feels like to be broke.
Right. It's
a horrible feeling, and too many people on this planet know the feeling. And if you can never experience it, imagine how that would feel.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so when I taught her about financial literacy, and here she is 21, bought her own condo, has never experienced the feeling of not having what she wants with her own money.
Right.
Which is an awesome feeling, because you and I are in positions now, we don't have that feeling. We you know, broke was a long time ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but that journey starts somewhere for everybody. Right? Well,
that's true.
Most. There are some, you know, wealthy people take care of their kids forever. But so interesting story there. So that helped shape your mindset of work ethic, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Work ethic which later will transition to a mindset of how I'm going to handle my money.
Right.
So let me get down the work ethic first, and then I'm going to start worrying about money. So you mentioned how at 16 you got your first job. By the time you were 18, you had to go to the service. When did you start thinking about money in a way of, man, I got to start doing the right things with my money? When did you start having that type of mindset?
Well, I got that mindset as soon as I started working, you know, because there was things that I wanted, and I didn't have. I talked about buying my first car.
Right.
I didn't have enough money for that car, and I didn't know, you know, what it took. I just knew I didn't have enough from the first check, getting $200-something bucks, and so I would take part of that money because I still had to, at that time I had to start buying my own lunches. I bought my own clothes, things like that, and so I had room and shelter, but I was really sustaining my, you know,
The lifestyle you wanted, yeah.
And so I started saving some money, and you know, I remember seeing that car on the bus, and I got off the next stop. It had a sign on it, and I went back, and it didn't have cell phones, so I started knocking on doors because I didn't have a phone to call the number on that car.
Right.
And somebody told me, I said, you know whose car that is? And they said, you know, I got to the house, and I think it was like $575. I had $500 back home in the drawer, and they said they'll take $500. I went home and got the $500, came back and got the car.
Nice.
Left the registration in their name, didn't get any insurance, but I had a car.
But that was the 70s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or 80s now.
Okay.
Well, no, it was late 70s.
Yep.
Getting in the 80s, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and then, so a couple of years working there, what triggered you to say, you know what, I think my best move right now might be to go ahead and join the military?
Well, back then, and like you just talked about, a lot of these kids stay home and come back home and so forth. And so it's a whole different generation now. And I've had some of my kids come back home in their 20s and things like that. And so at the time, it wasn't really spoken, but you knew you didn't stay home. You had to get up out of here. And so I knew I had to figure something out. Nobody stayed at the house once they finished high school. So wasn't many going to college. So you had to get a job and get out.
Get a roommate, share some rent.
Do something. And so I knew I had to leave. And so once I got in the military, I got to see that it's a different world out here. There's a world of opportunity with a good hard work ethic. I could achieve a lot. So I started advancing there, and it subsequently, you know, carried me through not only my military career, which lasted 7 years, but my police career, which lasted just over 30 years. Now,
I interviewed somebody else in the military, and they shared with me that in the military, this individual, the military had financial classes they required you to go do. Did you have those? Do you remember any of those?
I don't remember taking any of those financial classes.
No. Okay. So again, just trying to get to, so here's the point through your journey of life so far, and now you're, you know, maybe hitting in the early 20s, you're in the military and whatnot, and trying to figure out, okay, I know I'm safe here in the military because I'm on a regiment and I'm in a contract. I can't leave. It's not like a job you can quit and go get the next job, right? And so for a lot of people out there, we know that is their way out. They're like, I got to join the military, or I might be on the streets doing the wrong things. Right. And so for you guys and gals that are out there that had to make those decisions, I say kudos for you to make those decisions and not try to figure out something on the streets. And we know all the bad things that happens on the streets. So, so I think a lesson learned here right now so far would be, number one, it's not a matter. Don't blame the environment you're in at an early age. If you unfortunately are coming from a household that, you know, is very tight on means, can't give you what you need, you got to go get your own. You know, we live in this great, amazing country where at 16 you can go get your own. Right. You don't have to or need to depend on somebody if you don't want to, and to leverage what this country has, which is there's an office down the street that you can walk in and say, hey, I want to join.
Right.
And they'll take you 100 times out of 100.
Right.
So, but as you're in the military career, you did 7 years. What did you learn in there financially that you think helped you once you got out?
Well, I left out something. I got married right at 18.
Oh.
Okay, and so then I had a child at 21, and so I was growing up quick and didn't have much. The military doesn't pay you a lot of money, and however, like you said, it does provide some structure, provide some means. So we had a form of security. We had housing,
Right.
we had medical care, but I'll tell you, back in the day, most military members are very close, and I've heard even today some are close to the poverty line. They're not making a lot of money there.
Right.
And so for me, backing up, even though I didn't understand what it took to get to the next step, I realized I'm not going to be defined by the circumstance I'm in right now. So now getting married early, not knowing what the hell I was doing, that marriage didn't last. We didn't know we didn't know who we were ourselves. And so we grew apart versus growing together.
Right.
And that kind of inspired me. Like, I felt like the military's contributing that, because they'd send me out in the field for weeks and be away from my family, my wife and my child. And so I didn't like it as much. I was ready to get out. I didn't like the control. Like you said, you couldn't leave and so forth. And so once I realized about policing, because being from Chicago, the police were not your friend. I didn't look, and being black,
Right.
I didn't look at the police as as an option. And none of my family looked at them as it's like, oftentimes it's a non-traditional career field for most minorities as well as females.
Right.
And so I was not something. So I was first in my family to go there, and thus I've recruited others, my brother and my son, and realized, hey, there's an opportunity here. But I always had the mindset that I had to keep moving forward and better myself, and there's more I could achieve, and I continue to see through, hard work, giving good effort, being disciplined, that I could make some impact.
When do you think in your life, right, this journey's going through now, married, big kids, not working out, getting out, deciding, hey, policing was going to probably be your career. At what point, or what age, I should say, is where you really started thinking, okay, this is where I'm going to go ahead and plant my flag. I'm probably going to police. This will be my career. This is probably what I'm going to retire in. And then when did that mindset kind of, you start thinking in that direction? Not just, hey, I'm just figuring out how to make money and put food on the table. I got to figure out a future. I mean, what triggered that for you?
I wish it could be exactly how you said it, but it wasn't quite that easy.
Okay.
I came from a place and continued to move from a place until much later in life of a place of discomfort. I didn't like where I was at, so I had to go somewhere else. I had to move, change my circumstance, make it better. And so I didn't like being in Chicago, so I found a way and went to the military, got in the military. I wasn't really liking the things there. And it wasn't the military per se. It was more my personal relationship, which I blamed on the military, if you will. But I didn't like the control of what you talked about. I didn't like, having to be away from my family. And I think those were contributing to the failure there in the relationship. And so I said, there has to be a better way. And so after I got exposed to law enforcement, and I didn't know about retirement. I just wanted to make more money.
Right.
Put food on the table, and not have where I can't quit or say I'm done. And so I decided, I got the job from Metro. I got hired. I actually had 2 months left on my military commitment. And I was fortunate enough where the commander said, Sergeant Hank, I've looked at you. You're a good soldier. If you want to stay, you could stay. But I hear you want to go be a police officer in Las Vegas. And I shouldn't have said this, but at the time I said, sir, I'll take a paper route before I come back here. And I wasn't being arrogant. I was just, I was thankful, but I didn't want to be in that circumstance anymore.
Right.
And so I continued to, I guess you could say in some ways, I let the negative perception, or, how do they say you make lemonade out of lemons?
Yeah.
I would not dwell on this being sour, this being messed up. It's time to move away from that and move to improve and do better. And so that's what motivated me in a lot of ways to just seek a better life.
I think there's a lot of people out there, that parallel that story, because when you got out of the military and decided to go into law enforcement, you were late 20s?
I was I was 23. I got hired on at 25, so it took a couple of years.
Yeah. So so at 25, there's most kids are still trying to figure it out. The long term play here. So by 25, I think that's pretty much on track. And what you had learned by 25 is always knowing in your mind that you wanted more and better for yourself, a better life, right?
Yes.
And understanding, it sounds like you, even though you didn't make a lot of money in those early years, you stayed living within your means. You didn't go out and get yourself in some big debt, or did you?
No, the military doesn't allow that.
Right.
They have a lot of control over you. People weren't extending me credit because I didn't have this sufficient enough income.
Right.
Made some poor decisions. Bought a car didn't need. I had another car. So you make these mistakes and you reflect on that and look back and say, wow, why did I do that? But I always kept momentum moving forward to improve and say I could do better and improve my life as well as my family's life.
If you had to give looking back now, say a 22-year-old Charles, what kind of advice would you give him?
Wow. First, I probably would go to college. I would have went to college.
Okay.
Because there's ways to go to college and there's loans and so forth. So there's no excuse. And so there was some ignorance there on my part as well as my family's part. No one to tell me there's a way to go to college and you could pay for it later.
Right.
And so that's the first thing I'd say. You can go to college and achieve more. But the thing I wouldn't have got married so early. Figure out who you are before you go trying to build a life with someone who's still trying to figure out who they are. I think it's too young to get married at 18. Come on, man.
I agree. So but you know what? As humans we're out there, and when you fall in love or you think it's love, that is such a strong emotion throughout our whole lives that, reflecting back, you say, I wish I'd done it. But at that time you did it, I'm sure you were in mad love with your girl, right? And you're like, hey, let's be together or whatever. Or, homesick. There's a lot of reasons, but yeah, it's, it obviously doesn't ruin lives. You're doing fantastic. It's just, it just, as you reflect back on your life, it might have cost you a little time and maybe a little money, but you know what? You had a child, which I know you love. And that's always a great thing.
Oh, yes.
So let's talk to the audience about when you decided to get that job being a police officer, and how many years in being an officer when you decided, all right, I can stay here because I know I'll get a pension at the end, and make that decision of I'm going to stick it out? Or did you ever think in the early years that this is what I thought I might bail out of here?
Oh, no. Once I got in law enforcement, I was hooked.
You were hooked.
Oh, yeah. I was hooked. It's a great, I love Metro. Second to my family, Metro, the Las Vegas Police Department means the world to me for what it did for me personally as an individual, my kids, my immediate family, and then even my extended family. My brother, he's a commander. My son is an officer. I was recruiting everybody once I figured out, because I didn't realize, I wish I'd have realized, and I could say that I knew that going in. I didn't realize how fortunate I would be after serving all those years that I'd get this great pension that thankfully Metro, I didn't even have to pay into. And to be able to retire and have a substantial six-figure salary for the rest of my life,
right, without
working, man, I'm blessed.
So, because a lot of folks, again, when you're hitting that late 20s, 30s, and you're choosing a career like you did, that's definitely, the police officer, firefighter, a teacher or something. They're just like, hey, there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, so to speak, with AKA the pension. But that wasn't really your motivation when you decided to be law enforcement, because it became a passion for you.
Right. I wanted to do something better. I wanted to better myself. I wanted to make more money. I wanted to provide more for my family. Then once I got into law enforcement, I saw the opportunity to grow. I remember being at a young officer, been on like maybe a year and a half, and I went to a retirement. We used to have a meeting in the briefing room, and an officer was retiring. And he was a police officer. And one of the things he says, if I was to look back, like you said, what would you say to that 22-year-old Charles? he was speaking to us young officers, and he says, if I was to do something after he had a 30-year career, I would have promoted. So then I started figuring out, I said, wow. And it becomes like compounded interest, because I get promoted, I make more money. I get promoted again, I make more money. I get promoted again, I make more money.
Right.
So I started making more money, and then, the responsibility changed. I mean, I did less physical work, but I had more responsibility. I mean, as I retired, Metro had a $1 billion budget. I was number 3 on the agency. I was overseeing probably a third of that $1 billion budget.
Right.
Certainly a lot of that was salaries and benefits, but it was a lot, and responsible for a lot of people. I was over the entire jail, 4,000 inmates, 1,000 employees. And so that's a lot of responsibility. And so I saw that I could grow and do more, and now it's benefited me in retirement.
Well, let's talk about, again, we know you're retired now, and you're not going to worry about financially where you are. You're just going to, it's all about health and grandkids. But let's talk to the people out there. When did you start really thinking you're making more money? But when did you, because I know you've got some other investments, but when did you start thinking about money in the terms of, okay, I do really well at my job here, and I'm stepping up the ladder, so to speak, and making more money. When did you realize, well, I can make more money and raise my lifestyle, or I could put this money to work and save it correctly? And did anybody talk to you about that, or did you just figure this all out on your own?
Well, you read, you learn, advances, you start doing things with leadership, and you can apply those things as well as life. I remember as I was advancing, at some point, this little concept of CBA, Conceive, Believe, Achieve. And as I reflected, I saw that actually had been a part of my life, for a considerable part of my life, where I had conceived, it's the CBA, conceived that I could do something. It's born inside me. It's not tangible, just like when a woman conceives and she's conceived a child. Mm-hmm. You don't see it right away. She's with child, but you don't see a physical difference for some time. So that it's growing inside you. So I'd conceived that I could do this. I could make a difference. I could do better. And then I started believing. And so, for example, as I was advancing promotions, I'd go and put a name on the wall in my mirror every morning and say Sergeant Hank. And I'd put stripes on the uniform before I was a sergeant. And I started doing the same thing with my financial life. I'd say, we want to achieve this amount of money so we could get a house. So now we're going to put this amount of money away. We're going to save. And you put it in and you set it aside. But I believe it as I see the Sergeant Hank, going back to that. And then it almost became easy to achieve it. Once you conceived it, you believe it. I used to say I could go take a polygraph. I'm not a sergeant yet, but I believed it so much in my mindset that I'd already got there before I was there, that if I took a polygraph, you told me and asked me, are you an officer or a sergeant? Even before I was a sergeant, I say I'm an officer, it'd say I'm lying, because I believed so hard in my mind that I was a sergeant. And then it became easy to achieve. So I really believed in that concept of conceive it, believe it, achieve it. And, some people say ABC, I say CBA, conceive, believe, achieve. And it became a mantra for me, as I would conceive that I wanted something, and it'd be born in me. And before it was a reality, I started believing that I was there. Like they see the basketball player, I see that shot going in.
Before it goes in.
Brady throws the ball. He sees the guy catching it before he even throws it. He sees himself winning the Super Bowl before he steps on the field.
Right.
That's how I got to a point where my mindset was so strong and so focused on whatever I was going for. It was not stopping me. It's like we say with SWAT. They go in, when they go in the house, they go over, through, around, whatever. You don't stop.
Right.
You don't just go in the door and go, oh, something's in the way.
Right.
You take it out, that threat. You go through it. And so my mindset became very, very strong, very positive. And then I think when I started sharing it, it helped me, because I focused on, and that's something I was telling my wife, the other day, I said, I don't think we've been blessed with all this knowledge and all these blessings materially to just hold on and sit back and just golf and take grandkids. I said, I think it's important that we give back. And that's something I've really started working on and helping others to achieve their goals and find out how they get to other places. It's not just for me to sit back and just relish in all of this. I think it's important to give back to others.
Well, I think that is an awesome description, because in my program, Mindset is my first chapter. It is, when I teach it, I share with everybody, your mindset is the most important thing we have to get straight first. Because if your mindset isn't right in your financial life here, everything else you're going to do, you're building a house of cards. It's probably going to fall apart on you at some point. So your mindset created a belief system for you that ultimately became habit. That's just how you thought by habit. That's who Charles became. That's how you ran your life. But it started with that mindset, and then it came, as you told the story, I mean, it came back full circle. You understand that it's your mindset. Do you teach and talk to your kids about this?
Oh, absolutely. Now, do they listen and act on it all the time? No. And so I just continue to push it. And let me be clear, because a lot of folks look back and they see the end result of my achievements.
Right.
There was a lot of failures. And what I continue to do is not settle for that situation. I remember a few years ago when I didn't get promoted and another guy got promoted. And initially I felt like I deserved that promotion. And I was grateful for where I was at. I was very comfortable. But, I said, okay, I'm going to work for this guy. And I didn't say it at the time. And I said, I'm going to show this guy, and I'm going to show him that I'm loyal to him. But I'm going to show my boss, the sheriff, I'm going to say, I'm going to make him almost look and say, I should have promoted Charles. I'm going to work even harder. Mm-hmm. And so I would always take what some would perceive as a failure and just channel that energy to do something positive to make it better. And I tell this to my kids. You can't control someone's actions towards you, but you can control your reaction. You could control your reaction. And so my reaction was not to sit back and wallow in the fact that I wasn't chosen, but to show that you should have chosen me, and to do even better and be loyal to him. And I will tell you, and things change. Guess what? I was subsequently promoted faster than I thought it wasn't coming. Next thing you know, I get promoted again. Right. And so, by me imagine if I had taken the bitter attitude. Imagine if I'd have been subversive towards my new boss and so forth and not supported him, I probably wouldn't have been selected for that promotion. So I think it's important. You can't focus on your failures. You can't focus on the shortcomings. They're just bumps in the road. Well, you pivot and move on.
I just teach people, if failures are actually good, I look at failures as learning stepping stones. I mean, it's okay to fail if you learn from your failures, right? In your case, not getting somebody got promoted in front of you, so to speak, that was not really, I wouldn't look at that as a failure. That was someone who made a decision you couldn't control, obviously, and you had to prove to that person that you made the wrong decision. And now right. and however much time went by, that person realized through your actions, right? You were determined through actions and not words to prove them wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? Great lesson. I hope a lot of you out there think about that when you don't get what you want.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that you can't get it a different way or at a different time, right? So we shouldn't pout like children when we're adults and we don't get what we want. And and again, back to failures, it's okay to fail if you understand why you failed. That my dad taught me, look, you can't cry over spilled milk. It's spilled.
Right.
Clean up. Let's go.
Right.
Right. And that's how I pretty much led my life. I don't cry over spilled milk.
Right.
Right. Those things are going to happen. You've got to move along. I mean, that sun's going to come up every day regardless. It doesn't matter.
Right. Well, people look at it, Kevin, if I may, oftentimes, and I talk to this is something I do share with my kids and share with others as I'm encouraging and mentoring, if you will. And oftentimes the mindset is so powerful. The words that you say, what you put out. For example, I understand there's challenges, but I choose to look at those as opportunities.
Yes.
And so just changing that word in itself, if it creates more of a positive energy versus me saying, okay, I have a challenge. No, I have a new opportunity. So if you just change that mindset, because challenge somewhat defeated. Okay, and I don't mind. You challenge me. We challenge each other on the golf course or whatever. But it's an opportunity. So, and now you will look at your failures or your shortcomings not as failures, but an opportunity to learn experiences.
Yes.
So instead of saying they're failures, they're experiences that you learn from, and you learn, don't do that or do it a different way. And now you can improve in your circumstance.
So I often talk about, I love the word opportunities because I'm a big believer that all of us, it doesn't matter what circumstance you're in, opportunities happen for people all the time on a regular basis. Literally, it could be daily. I think the problem with a lot of folks is they don't recognize an opportunity. So you just turned a challenge into an opportunity where someone may have a challenge on something, like you say, go the wrong direction with it in a negative way, get upset or what have you, versus like it motivated you, right? The challenge to say, hey, this is an opportunity. I can actually go this direction. Great lesson. So a lot of you guys that are out there and maybe you're in a situation where you're struggling and you're thinking maybe the world's against you kind of thing. And man, you really got to listen and open your eyes for opportunities, because I'm a big believer that they're there, but you just have to recognize, and then more than recognize, you have to take action and I call it open the door into that opportunity. Right. Because it's now your responsibility. That opportunity's there. What are you going to do with it?
Right. Well, it goes back to that CBA, Conceive, Believe, Achieve. You have to speak. Sometimes people don't realize how powerful their words are. And even my wife, I love her to death beautifully. I think she's been on I know she's been on your show.
Yep.
And, I share with her sometimes when you say, oh, I'm going to fail or I'm going to don't put that energy out there. Don't say those things. Is it still an option? I mean, when I get on a plane, do I realize this plane could crash? But I'm not going to say that.
No.
You want to say we're going to arrive safely. And if something happens, you do your best to try to overcome that. But you have to, I believe, always focus on putting out positive energy and really watch what you say, because people create what I call self-fulfilled artificial barriers. Self-fulfilled. In other words, it's self-imposed. Self-imposed.
Self-imposed.
So they put it on themselves, okay? It's artificial. It's not real. So you've self-imposed artificial. You've put a barrier that doesn't even exist in front of you.
Yeah, you created your own challenge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous. I can't do this. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Nobody was born a doctor.
Right.
Nobody's born a lawyer. Nobody's born a cop.
Right.
Nobody's born anything. Nobody's born Kevin or Charles.
Yeah.
And so you can do anything you want to do. And once I realized that, once I adopted that conceive, believe mentality, once I continue to spend life, I will. Once I realized, don't just try to hit the target, shoot for the bullseye.
Yeah, right.
I realized the importance of what you say and the importance of that positive mindset and the success that you can and I've failed many times. And it's like Michael Jordan said, I failed. He says, I was challenged to take the first shot. Have you seen his quote? Mm-hmm. And he missed the buzzer beater. He missed the game-winning shot. And it's because he fails, that's why he succeeds.
Yes.
And
because his failures push him.
Yes. You don't look at it as
a failure.
Oh, woe is me, or I messed up. You look at it as, okay, I'll do better next time.
Well, the thing is that when you use the word failure, right, it's a very negative word in the context that people believe it is, except for some. Right. Like we'll use athletes for an example, Jordan or Kobe, right? These guys use that word as a motivator. Right. And so for some of you guys out there that maybe right now you're beating yourself up and you're using that word, man, turn that word around and use it in a positive way in your life. Let it motivate you. Right. If you happen to have failed at whatever you just might have failed at. Don't wallow in the failure. Like I said, I look at them as stepping stones. What did I just learn? I failed. What I learned. Right. What can I do next time that it won't allow me to fail? Right. That's how I look at it. I got to tell you what, that is pretty powerful stuff. I hope that you guys really like that lesson. I want to switch gears here now. And we talked in the beginning, Charles is retired, and you're retired right at about a year now, right? I went to your retirement party. What an awesome party that was. It was an awesome party because you and your wife had a joint retirement party. And like, how often does that even happen? Right. So that was really cool. But now that's been roughly right at a year, right?
Yes.
Was it last February we did that?
Yes.
So talk to the folks out there who maybe, and again, we don't even need to tell them your age or anything, but who are either maybe just getting ready to retire, like in the next 12 months or whatever, or maybe they're in their first year. What did you learn about retirement? What's your mindset with retirement?
Well, fortunately, I prepared for retirement.
What do you mean that?
Mentally. I say I prepared mentally. Certainly, I was prepared financially,
right?
But I was also prepared mentally. And what I mean by that, having worked since I was 16, and then I got to a point where, like I said, I was over so much. I was on that phone would ring in the middle of the night. People we shoot somebody, I had to go. Somebody die in custody, I had to go. I do press conferences and things like that. So it's kind of, I'm not trying to sound elitist, but it's kind of like the president don't do much, but he's responsible for physically,
right?
But he's responsible for a whole country and affects the whole world,
right?
So the things that he say and the things that he do, he has a lot of stress on him, and so I had a lot of stress on me, man, and so it was not the physical stuff that I did; it was just more the mental things, and so I got to a point and I'd made a commitment. I don't want to be in charge of nobody no more because I've been a boss. I became a boss in the military. I became a supervisor. I was a supervisor.
So most of your career,
most of my career,
you were in charge of people.
In charge of people. So I have compassion. I inherit I carry their weights and challenges and when stuff don't go right for them. And so I was looking forward to not having that responsibility anymore. So I prepared mentally. I hadn't prepared for this pandemic. I had a different vision and what I envisioned. So I was very grateful. And I remember you and I even had the conversation. I felt a level of guilt about doing some things at my home and spending some money. And I actually shared this with you. And I said, Kevin, people losing their jobs. And you gave me some counsel on this. You said, Charles, you earned that. But I, go ahead and spend the money. And it helps the economy. And so, but I prepared mentally for that transition well in advance of it occurring. So not only oftentimes we focus on the financial preparation, I think it's important to prepare for the mental preparation because I've saw a few cops retire and they're not happy. They're what am I supposed to do now?
Right,
They don't know what to do. And it's not all about golf and it's not all about the grandkids. And I look at it in terms of the next chapter. So I made up my mind I was going to take off a year, have some fun, and do absolutely nothing.
Right.
Okay.
Not answer that phone.
No, it's kind of like because I'm the type, man, I'm intense if you haven't picked up on it, and I don't really have to do anything. And so I made up my mind, like I go on vacation, it's flip-flops, and my bag doesn't have that much when I go to Hawaii because I'm chilling.
Right.
I'm not doing anything. And so I'd already mentally prepared, and now the challenge was convincing my wife. I wanted her to come with me. And once I got her convinced to realize this is going to be great for both of us, and we will stay together, even though we'll have more time around each other.
Right.
That was great. So that was really exciting, as you said, to be able to retire together and have that time together. And we just feel very blessed. It's just with our world hurting with this pandemic, that's affected a different way. I had a vision to travel a little bit more, and more vacations, and so got to save some more money not doing that. But that's the tough part to see those things. But it's a blast, man. I'm very grateful where I'm at. I got a lot more time. I do the grandbabies at home right now and get to spend that time, and I get to do whatever I want just about, and I'm very thankful. I don't say that arrogantly. I say that with a lot of gratefulness.
Right. Well, and I asked that question because, people, we all strive most of our adult lives to go out there, make that living, and somehow, be able to have the opportunity to retire, because so many people don't even have the opportunity. That by the time when you set yourself up the way you did and you got there, was it what you thought? Even with all that preparation, financially and mentally that you talk about, was it still what you thought it would be? Was it better? Was it not as good? And then it's different for you because, unfortunately, your first year of retirement was COVID year.
Well, it's better. I would say it's better. And I know you like nuggets. You know, you're one that like the little nuggets. I saw you when I talked about CBA and opportunity and everything. But, you know, another thing, I look at money because we're talking about money here. And money's important. If I didn't have the money to be able to retire and not work. So I could work if I want to. And my wife just got a real estate license. She wants something to do.
Right.
I'm still figuring out. My thing right now is I want to help other people. I want to do things for others. And so that's what I'm looking at, people that I can better their lives, encourage, and build up. I feel like that's part of my calling to do that. But one of the nuggets I want to leave you and your audience with is that I grab on, and I tell this to my kids, is money. Somebody told me this: money's like air, and if you don't have enough of it, you're uncomfortable. Let me say that again: money's like air. If you don't have enough of it, you're uncomfortable. So hold your breath for a minute. Don't breathe for a minute. You go get uncomfortable. And so I tell my kids, I said, kind of the whole Covey thing began with the end in mind. Think about how you want to live. Think about the things you want to do. And so that's kind of what I did, Kevin. I started thinking about how I want to live, how I want to have choices. Now, can I buy and do everything what I want? No, but I could do a lot, and there's not much that I want for. Okay, so I'm very blessed and comfortable and could do a lot of things that same poor young boy from the hood of Chicago couldn't do. And so that's the thing I try to tell folks is to you have to think about where you want to be. And we do it all the time in our lives. You just don't go, you and your wife, Kathy, you don't say, hey, we're going on vacation. And that's the end of the conversation.
Right.
You pick a destination, and then you move towards getting there, and you take steps. And you think about, like somebody I learned recently, men's the most important next step. Think about men. What is the most important next step? So what we do, I got to rent a car. If I'm going to Hawaii, I got to get a van. I got to make some golf reservations. I got to get a place to stay. We do all of these. Those are steps, and those are important steps. And if I miss one of them, something's going to be jacked up. We'll be standing at the airport.
Right, where do we go next?
Uber,
right.
or if I don't get a room, I don't have. So you got to think of that most important next step. And a lot of folks they get stuck. They paralyzation through overanalyzation. They get paralyzed because they overanalyze. They sitting there thinking about it too much. Sometimes, man, just start moving. Get some momentum. Go. And you could just pivot and make another turn. But get moving, and that's what I encourage people to do. And so it's, I'm very grateful. Retirement's fantastic, man.
I love that acronym, MENS. I've never heard it, and here's why I like it so much, because we can parallel that acronym for everything. And that acronym, when you said it and described it, is what I teach, and I'm coming up with my program, which is building a roadmap for financial success. That we have to have a roadmap how to get where we're going, or where are we going?
Right.
We don't know where we're going.
Right.
And with your acronym, MENS, that's basically what it's saying.
But see, here's the thing, and I'm gonna go back to this real quick, Kevin. Sometimes you don't know, because that kid, when we looked at the young Charles, I had no idea. I just knew I needed to take another step. And guess what? When I realized I wanted to be a cop, I said, I got to go to an interview. Now, I didn't want them to see me as a soldier. Guess what I did? I figured some things out. Some people may think this is a little unethical, and some would take shame with this. I didn't want to see me as a soldier. I didn't have a suit. I went to JCPenney's, I bought a suit, I left the tags on, I went to that interview, I nailed that interview, and I took the suit back after I did the interview. But I say that not with pride, but I figured it out, man.
Right.
You don't just get stuck in your circumstance. I figured the next step is for me to figure out a way to get a suit. Now, certainly, and then I told some young men, I had guys when I was recruiting as a police officer, I'd buy them a tie. I tell them I figured out how you could go to the thrift store, go to Salvation Army, get a tie. I say, I'll show you how to tie that tie. And there's ways to achieve, once you conceive it, you believe, there's ways to achieve it. But we surrender. We go, woe is me. When I didn't get promoted, it's not woe is me. It's an opportunity for me to show I could do even better and be even better. The mind is so powerful.
Oh, it's most powerful.
And I didn't see things, man. I just figured out I got to do something else. I got to take what is the next most important next step that I need to do. Had no idea about the destination all the way there, but I knew I could keep moving forward, get that momentum going.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to thank you for coming out. I think your story is so inspiring for a lot of people out there. Here's a guy, south side of Chicago, and everybody knows this is south side of Chicago, not the easiest place to grow up in, and just had the instinct of there's something better out there and I'm going to go get it. And you did. And congratulations to you, and enjoy your retirement all that you can. You got a beautiful family. You're enjoying life. Stay healthy. And again, thanks for coming out.
Hey, thank you for having me. You're a great friend, man.
Oh, I really appreciate it. So guys, listen, if you like what you heard, and I know you had to have, listen, subscribe to my channel on YouTube, smash that like button, smash the like button. Algorithm likes when you guys do that for me. And remember, I put out a new episode every Wednesday, 7 a.m. So Charles, I'll see you on Saturday on the course.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right. You guys take care out there. We'll see you next week.
Hey everybody, hope you enjoyed that episode. Really enjoyed making all these episodes for you. Remember, we're just having conversations with people's journey with money and the things they did right with it, the things that did wrong with it, and how did they really come about getting their mindset with money. So every episode's different. We all have a good takeaway from them. So do me a favor, hit the like button, smash the like button, and subscribe to my channel, because every episode that I do is going to be different, as all our journeys are different. So you guys take care, and we'll talk to you next week.